So when I was playtesting, trying to update my Zephagamon deck with the new cards and the Ace edition, I realized the deck always had that one problem, which really requires your opponents to have a Digimon on their side of the board for you to gain the maximum amount of value. Because if they don't, it feels like there are turns that you're just sitting there and you're not really applying as much damage or pressure than you normally should. And that is when I figured out there's this secret sauce card that you can be including in the deck, which makes the build fundamentally different, but you can actually push and even compete against some of the meta decks of the format. And don't worry, I'll tell you guys exactly what this card is when we get into it. So let's begin with the deck profile. Like always, starting with Digi-Egg cards, I prioritize the 4 copies of Fluffymon from EX7 just to gain that memory back whenever we try to take down the opponent's Digimon. Now let's get into rookies. I'm running 4 copies of the EX7 pteromon just to help me climb up with the Digivolution reduction cost into Goin. And then with its inherent effect, it also gains a memory when you take down the opponent's Digimon, but different to Fluffymon, this is all turns, meaning if we ever stop the opponent's attack or battle against them, we get to steal some memory, potentially taking their turn or limiting their plays. But that's it for all of the archetype rookie engine I'm running, but as some of you guys may know, I've always been a huge fan of the Palmon engine in this particular deck. Therefore, I'm running 4 copies of the BT14 Palmon, and the whole reason is that we suspend the opponent's Digimon a lot in this deck and capitalizing off that value by targeting one of the opponent's Digimon that becomes suspended until the end of the opponent's turn, they lose 2 memory, giving us that extra 2 memory to work with. We can easily just Digivolve into level 4 for free, or we can always climb up even faster into our level 5s and then 6s, which can then exert the amount of pressure that we want to. But not only that, with its inherent effect to further reduce another Digivolution cost by 1, really synergizes with the combos of what we're trying to establish the Shoto so that we can climb up even faster. And that is why I'm also running 2 copies of the Palmon X, which is exactly to synergize to suspend down the opponent's Digimon where we want to Digivolve on top of regular Palmon after using the starter main effect to immediately get that 2 memory. Its inherent effect also works very nicely because when we play out a green tamer, we get to gain that memory back, making it even cheaper as we climb up into our level 4s. And that is exactly the reason why I'm running 4 copies of the EX7 Goin to help me play out the Shotos for free, and then we can potentially gain a memory back off Palmon X if we ever have it in the stack. Just like the pteromon inheritable, we gain a memory once we take down the opponent's Digimon, which is also all turns. And then I want to talk about the newer Goin, which we get from the latest tournament pack, and I'm running 3 copies of this particular card. Similar reason as to synergizing with Palmon, we get to suspend down the opponent's Digimon and we target that one so we can lose 2 memory, effectively making this guy a free evo when we get into it. And once we suspend down the opponent's Digimon, we get to also then Digivolve into a Grand Goin and further reduce its Digivolution cost by its own effect, and with the Palmon's effect, making it 1 cost only. Of course, if there's more other suspended Digimon on the board, you get to further reduce it even more. And then with its inheritable giving us extra 2000 DP during our turn is really helpful so that we can ensure ourselves to swing over the bigger bodies when we need to. And since we'll talk about DP buffs and suspending down the opponent's Digimon, that's exactly also the reason why I'm running the older promo Goin, which I'm having 2 copies of. Same concept as before, synergizing with Palmon, so making it a free evo, and then you get to gain extra 2000 DP that lasts until the end of the opponent's turn. And if you have a Shoto on the board, you gain Piercing. Otherwise, you want to Digivolve up the stack and gain even more DP buffs with its inherent effect, just like the tournament pack Goin. But that's not it for level 4s, because now I'm going to reveal the special tech spice that I included in this deck, and that is the 3 copies of Octomon. This card is seriously MVP. If you guys haven't seen the gameplay guide video, this card really helped us accelerate our win condition so much faster. And this is exactly when the opponent's situation where they don't play any Digimon on their side of the board, Octomon forces it on them. You play out a token that's suspended, and then anything of your stack gets to swing over the opponent's Digimon. You get to gain that memory back with all your inherited effects, trash their security potentially, pierce for damage, and they have to trash a card off their hand. And that is exactly the reason why I'm running this card. And you guys might be thinking, that's a lot of level 4s, the ratios are really clunky. Now keep in mind guys, Octomon is not intended to Digivolve into level 4s. And when I was building this deck, I made sure it never interfered with the core ratios that it's supposed to, as my level 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s don't change. The other way to think about it is really treat this card as a tech option card, which can give you an extra body, which is really nice, where you can synergize with your medieval Gallantmon when you go for alliance combos too. And that is exactly why I recommend you guys to give this card a try inside your Zephagamon decks, because it definitely works. Now I know my build is kind of spicy and unconventional, but if you guys ever want to check out the tribal version and first draft that I've been creating prior to this video, I already uploaded that deck list on the AVAULT Club membership, which you guys can check out. And for those who are already part of the AVAULT Club member, I want to give you guys a shout out and thank you for the support. But now let's talk about our level 5s. I'm running 3 copies of the EX7 Grangalemon, which has Vortex, allowing us to attack the opponent's Digimon at the end of the turn. We mainly use its when Digivolving effect to gain the effect immunity against the opponent's Digimon effects by suspending our own Digimon. And with its inherit effect, we get to unsuspend whenever we attack into the opponent's Digimon, and that is exactly how we want to synergize with our level 6s and Shoto to unsuspend multiple times as we're doing that. As for the other level 5, I like to run 3 copies of the Rapidmon from Star Deck 17, just so we can have removal in the form of de-Digivolving, and we can potentially gain immunity from any bottom decking or returning to hand effects as long as we have a green Tamer, which gives us coverage on both sides depending on what we need in the situation. That's when I would decide to either go into Rapidmon or Grangalemon, whichever I need. If its inherit effect, which I absolutely love, is that we can trash the opponent's security when we take down the opponent's Digimon. This inherit effect is also all turns, meaning if we ever block the opponent's Digimon attacks and we win by the battle, we still get to trash their security too. And then to round off for the rest of the level 5s, I teched in 1 copy of the BT17 Argomon. The main intention of this card is to lock down any hybrid-based decks, which is mainly going to be purple hybrid, which I expected to face off a lot against in the meta, which is why I actually originally ran 2 copies. But now since that deck is banned and hammered down, I think 1 copy is good enough, but it's still really good against many other meta decks, such as Royal Knights to keep their cool boys suspended, Gallantmon to keep their Takato suspended so they can't gain further value, which really buys you that time. And the fun fact that it is also purple, meaning you can actually Digivolve this card on top of Octomon. That's it for our level 5s. Now let's talk about level 6s, where I'm running the 4 copies of Medieval Gallantmon, which is just an incredibly powerful card in the meta. Many decks are splashing this card into their decks as well as a tech choice or staple. And this is a Vortex Warriors deck after all with Shoto, so I think it made a lot of sense to be within its own archetype, but just being able to remove multiple bodies, counter against your opponent's on-play effects as well, alliance for damage is just incredibly powerful. But if you guys are looking for some budget alternatives, I definitely have other level 6s that I can recommend to you guys in the tech choices, so stay tuned. But I just felt like it's really important because the synergy really also bridges along with our new Zephagamon ace, which I'm running 3 copies of. This card can Digivolve for 5 on top of any level 5 that's green, or we can even Digivolve this on top of Medieval Gallantmon for 1 cost, since it is a play cost 10 or higher level 6 Vortex Warrior. Otherwise, we threaten the Blast Ace against the opponents, and this card is just absolutely overloaded, which I think you definitely want to prioritize. If you don't want to play as much Medieval Gallantmons, I would even make the argument to maximize this at 4 copies, because itself has Piercing, Vortex, Blocker, which is basically all the keywords that Shoto provides into it into 1 card. It can unsuspend itself when any Digimon suspends once per turn, including itself, so you can make multiple attacks. When you go into it by playing or Digivolving, you suspend your opponent's Digimon, and you get to bottom deck multiple of their Digimon for every 2 suspended Digimon that's on the board. The wider the board it is, the more you can clear out, which is just absolutely insane to counter against your opponent's plays, which gives you the both offensive and defensive strategies, since it has Blocker as well, and you can continue to attack and synergize with your Shoto to unsuspend multiple times. Every time I got into this card in the early stages of the game, it helped me secure my win con so quickly because I was able to beat down the opponents so fast and take down the Digimon while piercing for their security. Now let's talk about Tamers. I'm running 3 copies of the EX7 Shoto just to gain that additional memory whenever the opponent has a Digimon on the side of the board. At the end of the turn, really synergizing with all our Digimon by giving it Blocker, but as long as Vortex Warriors, we also get to unsuspend and also have Piercing so that we can attack over the opponent's Digimon, potentially gain the memory back, and continue to stand either a blocker or keep ourselves unsuspended so we're protected from any battle situation that might happen. As for the other Shoto, I'm running 2 copies of the one from the starter deck, which is our main memory setter, but also giving us the synergy of Vortex to switch and redirect our attacks into the player or to another Digimon whenever we attack into the opponent's Digimon to begin with. There are times that I'm able to finish the game off thanks to this card by synergizing it with any of my level 6s or anything that has Vortex after I check down the opponent's security down to 0. But if there's no Digimon on their side of the board, this is where I hard drop the Octomon, giving them that 5 memory, dropping down the token on the opponent's side, using the EX7 Shoto to unsuspend my Vortex Warrior, and then make the final attack which redirects directly into them, which the opponents never see coming. And don't worry, I'll show you guys exactly how that works in the combos later on. But that's it for Tamers. Now let's talk about options. I'm running the 1 copy of HPD just because it's just an incredibly good card for green. Being able to Digivolve further and climb up or stack even faster by suspending is just absolute value. And then for the rest of the option cards, I'm running 4 copies of Great Memory Boost, 3 copies of Green Memory Boost, and 1 copy of Green Scramble. The reason why I'm running Great Memory Boost is solely the purpose to help me dig and be able to grab Octomon. But to further elaborate the reason why I'm running so many copies of Memory Boost to gain memory instead of reducing my Digivolution costs, such as having agility training, is because I find myself hard playing cards quite often, even the Zephagamon ace or even Octomon, just so that we can execute those plays efficiently and not have to give the opponent too much memory to work with. Tech choices and other cards that you guys can also include for this build. If you want to increase your searching even further, you can definitely run the starter deck Pteromon, which helps you grab multiple pieces. Overall, there's still a lot of Liberator and Avian Vortex Warrior cards in this deck that can easily grab off of it. And then there's also the starter deck Gaomon, which has a security effect letting you play out anything that's 4 costs or less within the archetype. Itself has Vortex as well, so you can always do that cheeky swing combo into a redirecting attack, which is really cool. But if you ever would run this card, I personally would recommend maximizing it as a 4-off just to increase your hit efficiency when it comes to having that security effect to get the most value. Other level 6s that you can also run aside from Medieval Gallantmon is actually Dinomon from EX8, which really synergizes well with Medieval Gallantmon alone, so you can actually pop multiple things, suspend even more things, and delete and do a lot of checks and a lot of damage with this big dinosaur monster. As for the other level 6, you guys can also run Mega Gargomon Ace from Star Deck 17, which gives you a lot of utility with Blocker, Reboot. As you blast Digivolve, you can lock down your opponent's Digimon and Tamers, prevent them from Digivolving a whole turn. It can unsuspend itself as well, which is very similar to Zephagamon. But keep in mind, if you guys ever choose to run any of these other level 6s that are not within the archetype, you're going to lose a little bit of a consistency of potentially going into your Zephaga Ace to exert the amount of pressure. But you guys can also spice it up even further with level 7s, such as Chaosmon Vaulter Arm from BT20. This can Digivolve on top of any of your Medieval or Zephaga Ace. And if you ever stack your Zephaga Ace on top of your Medieval, you have 2 level 6s underneath it, so you effectively make it a 3 cost, and you can suspend multiple things, and you guarantee yourself to gain that 2 memory of Chaosmon. However, you don't get any value off the partition, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, Quartzmon is still really good to punish down wide boards as a potential finisher to burn even more security that your opponent has, or depending on the meta situation or call, you still might want to run Paladin mode Ace just to counter against any trash-based decks and also punish wide boards by bottom decking opponents' multiple Digimon and trashing all their sources too. Next, I want to quickly talk about the new BT20 Shoto, which has a starter main phase effect where you can bottom deck this Tamer to play a different Shoto from your hand, and then if you have no Digimon on board, you get to play a level 3 bird or avian from your trash for free, which is mostly going to be your pteromon, which acts almost like a green scramble within the archetype. With its end of turn effect, you actually give one of your Vortex Warriors extra 2k that lasts until the end of opponent's turn, and you get to suspend down one of your opponent's Digimon so that you can ensure that you can attack over them. But as you guys can see, my build is not fully 100% archetypal, therefore I think this card is more suited for the tribal version of the pure Zephagamon line. Otherwise, you can play the original first promo Shoto that lets you play out a pteromon from your hand for free, and then it always gives you that constant value of whenever you Digivolve into Avian, into your Gaomon, Grand Gale, or your Zephagas, you can always suspend him to gain that memory back as you climb up. Alright, combos and how to play the Zephagamon deck. Very traditional, as it's trying to stack build and climb up for your 3 level 4s, 5s, and 6s. So starting with your opening hand, you want to see your rookies, Pteromon and Palmon, as many memory boosts as you can to dig deep and find your pieces so that you can go into your level 4 Gaomon, ideally your EX7 one to play out your Shotos for free, and then into your 5 and your bridge into your 6s in the same turn so you can start attacking your opponent's Digimon and control the board. Eventually, you want to threaten the Zephaga Ace to have it, so by going into Medieval, you can always Blast Ace over it as well, or Evil it into your own turn and sort of set up and sort of control the board and deal damage and start winning by attacking as much as you can. Starting with the first combo, I really want to show you guys why I highly value the Palmon engine overall to give you a ton of memory to work with, and you can climb all the way up to a level 6 in a single turn, which is absolutely crazy, and all you need is opponent's Digimon on their side of the board that is unsuspended. Push out the Palmon, starter main phase, give it the lose 2 memory effect if it becomes suspended. Digivolve into Pal X and suspend that Digimon and you instantly gain that 2 memory. Next, Digivolve into EX7 Gaomon and establish your EX7 Shoto. Because you played out a green Tamer, Palmon X is going to gain you a memory. You can then Digivolve into Grand Gaomon for the cost reduction of 1 with Palmon's inherent effect to only pay 2. Suspend itself, so you gain Digimon effect immunity, and then you would Digivolve into Medieval Gallantmon for 3 costs. You can choose to whether suspend your opponent's Digimon or delete them if you want to, but you want to keep one body that you can swing over at the end of the turn, because what we're going to do here is going to use Shoto to unsuspend, and then with Vortex, we're going to attack over that suspended Digimon, making sure we can swing over it. And because we're swinging into opponent's Digimon, Grand Galemon is going to let us unsuspend. And once we take down that Digimon, we get to gain the memory of Galemon and the memory of Fluffymon, passing the opponent to 1. By establishing the Medieval Gallantmon, you're exerting a lot of pressure in terms of control. Whatever they play out, you can potentially suspend and pop them as well. And if they ever try to attack into you, this is where you can go into your Zephaga ace. And this is a really great example of showing you guys of how you're almost gaining the exact same, if not even more value than the traditional way of building your Pteromon and Galemon lineup. For this combo, we're also going to start with Palmon once again, but this time I'm going to show you guys how you can climb up through a different Digivolution stack to achieve exactly the same, emphasizing on the consistency in order to pull this off. But this time we'll have Shoto established on the board in advance. Just like before, you want to have your opponent's Digimon unsuspended on the board, so then you can go ahead and push out Palmon, start your main, give them that lose 2 memory effect. Now you would Digivolve into Galemon for the 2 costs, suspending that particular Digimon, so you gain that 2 memory back. Now you get to Digivolve into Grand Galemon for reduced cost with Galemon, since there's at least 1 suspended Digimon on your opponent's side, and with Palmon, you reduce the Digivolution cost by 1, so you make it a 1 cost only. Just like before, suspend Grand Galemon, use its when Digivolving effect to give it immunity, and then you can now Digivolve into the same Medieval Gallantmon just like before. And this time, again, at the end of turn, suspend Shoto to unsuspend the Medieval Gallantmon, and then you can attack into your opponent's Digimon, delete something, or whatever you want. As you're attacking, Grand Gale gets to unsuspend as well. You get to Pierce for 13k 1 check, and you also get to gain a memory back, passing your opponent to 2. And just like the same position as last time, you're threatening the potential of Zephaga ace if your opponent ever tries to attack into you. For this next combo, assuming your opponent tries to play around your Medieval Gallantmon and play around your Zephaga ace by building in the back, not attacking into you, not playing into your traps whatsoever, and leaving nothing on their side of their board, ending their turn and passing you to 1. These are some proactive ways I want to show you guys on how to use Octomon and apply it to actually deal damage and push further for your win condition. This card is just incredible. Assuming your opponent puts you at 1 memory, at the start of main, you're not going to gain additional memory just because there's nothing on their side of the board. We're going to go ahead and first swing at the opponent's security with Medieval Gallantmon for 13k 1 check. Now we're going to lay down the Octomon. Because there are 3 or fewer Digimon on the board in total, you're going to play a token to the opponent's side of the board. This is where you get to use the end of turn to suspend Shoto, to unsuspend your Medieval Gallantmon, gaining piercing and blocker, and then you can attack into that token. Because you're attacking into the token, you get to unsuspend with Grand Galemon, and you can also alliance with the Octomon together to pierce for 2 checks for 18k, and once the token is deleted, you get to gain a memory with Fluffymon and make your opponent trash a card, and then you pierce for 2 checks. On the flip side, assuming your opponent puts you to 1, but they have a Digimon on the board this time, you are going to gain that 1 memory, and it's a big body that you can't remove just by Medieval Gallantmon alone. So this time, we're going to Digivolve into Zephaga for 0 cost, because with Palmon's inherent effect, we're going to reduce it by 1, and Zephaga normally only costs 1 to evo on top of a Medieval Gallantmon, which is a play cost 10 or higher Vortex Warrior that's level 6. We're going to go ahead and bottom deck the opponent's Digimon, just because assuming we can't swing over it. This is where Zephaga gets to swing at the opponent's security for 1 check, 15. Then, because it's suspended, we get to unsuspend the Zephaga, and then we're going to go for another check, which is going to be 2 hits once here. Now we're going to do the same thing as before, because the opponent has no Digimon on their side of the board. We're going to force them to have 1. We're going to gift them 1 by playing down the Octomon, just like before, playing a token on their side. And then at the end of turn, suspend Shoto to unsuspend Zephaga to give it blocker and piercing, which it has itself already anyways. We can go ahead and attack into that token. Grand Galemon effect is going to unsuspend, taking that token out. We're going to gain a memory of Fluffy. They're going to once again trash a card from their hand and then pierce for 1 more check, and that's 3 hits in total with this massive amount of damage. And back to the other scenario, before you play out the Octomon, assuming your opponent has no Digimon on the board but 0 security, and if you ever have the starter deck Shoto established already, this is once again where we can go for the Octomon play, give them a token. Now that they have a Digimon, end the turn, we're going to suspend Shoto to unsuspend. This time we're going to go ahead and attack it first, Grand Gale to unsuspend, and then we're going to use the Star Deck Shoto to redirect to finish for game, which is a sneaky way which they never see coming to finish them off. Make sure to get your very own Initialized Spark collection on the AVAULT store right now, and definitely watch the latest Battle Vault episode to get exclusive discount codes for this latest drop. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.